Okay, good morning, folks. Thank you for jumping in today, talking about AI leadership. Let's get started without further ado. So AI for leaders, and we want you to drive the future. AI is everywhere. We all know about it. Quick intro, if you don't know me. I've been in industry for about 25 years. The last 10 years I've spent about in data and AI/ML. I had privilege to lead many projects like Bloomberg GPT, Falcon, and many other AI projects you may think of. Quite often, whatever the new LLM came out in last 12 to 18 months, I had either my brain or my hand into it. I am an advisor to many startups. I have wrote a couple of books. I speak at a public event more often than not, like this as well, based out of New York area, but that's about me. We want you to have a quick poll of who you are. So maybe if you can join quickly onto menti.com and update about who you are. We'll just pause here for a couple of seconds. Okay, let's begin. So the agenda for today is very simple. We want to talk about golden circle. We want to talk about reset and rewiring. We want to talk about ABC, not the alphabets ABC. And we'll open up for Q&A at the end. But let's get started. I'm sure many of you would have seen a video like this. If you have not seen video like this is actually a video created by AI with a simple prompt. Where the prompt was something like that: have a pirate ship floating in a coffee cup. So what you see at the bottom, the liquid material is coffee. Now, of course, the top is a pirate ship, but this is actually a real video created by AI. So the AI is going in our life, whether we like it or not. And it's no longer a hype from where I'm sitting, where the hype cycle, what typically a Gartner would call a hype cycle, that hype cycle has gone. We are into the reality. People are solving the real business problem with AI in terms of where they are and where they want to be. So that's actually a reality when we are looking at many of the AI functionality being developed on a daily basis in companies. So where we will land in coming weeks to coming months, I would like to quote from Andrew Ng, is one of the profound person in terms of AI. And he said that AI is like electricity. Now, we use electricity every day, but we never realize where that electricity is coming from, how the transformer works, how the entire nuclear power plant or any other hydropower plant works. But that's where the electricity is embedded in our everyday life. Same way AI is going to get embedded in our everyday life. But when we are talking about AI, I mean, as a leader, we always want to think in terms of leadership. How can I get this AI working in my company, in my business? And how can I leverage that? So when we are talking about leadership, a person comes to my mind is Simon Sinek, and he always talks about start with why. And he coined the term golden circle, where why, how, and what. So think about first as why, then how, and then what. So maybe we also go into the same direction and we say, okay, why AI, right? So let's talk about why. Now, this is some of the numbers being researched by McKinsey and many of the other research firms. But the expectation is the total AI impact, economic impact, is going to be anywhere between 17 to 26 million. Right? That's huge. That's humongous. And one of the component of AI, now AI, not generative AI, which is not everything AI. There used to be a thing called predictive AI before generative AI became popular. But generative AI itself could add a value up to 4.4 trillion into the economy. Now, when we compare that 4.5 trillion on a yearly consumption point of view, UK's GDP in 2021 was 3.1 trillion, right? So there is a massive impact when we are looking at AI on our daily life. And if it can generate a value beyond the GDP of a country. That's mind-boggling. You may think that, hey, we are late in the game, but actually not. We are just getting started. So if you are thinking about hopping on the train of AI, actually, this is the perfect time. If you don't hop in, there is a chance that you will feel left out, and then maybe you will become legacy. Yes, there is a chances that you or your business may become legacy if you don't get on board into the AI train. All right, so that's on the why. Let's talk about how we got here. I mean, it's not something like we got in here yesterday or a year ago. There has been a lot of effort has been happening in AI for decades. We are talking about 50s and 60s is when actually the original AI movement had started. And then there were some AI winter, and then there was some movement. And again, the AI winter came in. And then now we have seen the uptick of an AI. I'm hoping that we would not see AI winter anymore. But let's see how we got here first. Moore's law. I'm sure some of you are familiar with Moore's law. It's about chips are getting smaller and smaller, smaller and smaller. And then we are able to uh, include more chips or dense, we are able to do a dense compute as a whole, right? So that's one aspect of looking at AI as one of the mechanics of where or how AI got involved here. The next is cloud computing. And when we are looking at cloud computing, primarily we are talking about how the cloud computing began back in the days of 2006, 2007. And then cloud computing ticked off in few years after, and then that allowed anyone and everyone to go and consume the cloud at a at a fingertips, right? So that allowed anyone to go and buy a compute. But that is also not the only thing. COVID-19 happened, blessing in disguise. Why I would say? Because we all were glued to our screen, whether it's a phone, tablet, computer, and we generated a lot of data. And what happened with all of the data, what we generated during COVID-19, is many science team or many labs who are researching into the AI space, they leverage that data. Yes, our data, what we may have started typing on a public forum or a Reddit or anywhere else. They took the data and then developed a further better, newer AI models. But that means that allowed them to do breakthrough science. And what kind of science we are looking at, right? So back in 2017 is when University of Toronto and Google created a paper called Attention is All You Need. And that paper is the foundation of what we see today, whether it's we call it ChatGPT, or we call it Claude, we call it DALI. Most of the foundation model, what you have heard of today, the generative AI model, is because of that research, what happened in 2017. And then science team, multiple scientists applied that research into the actual usage and created models using some of or most of the public data. Right. So that's where the breakthrough science came in picture when we are looking at overall schema of things of how we got here. So this is a joke, but in a way, 5 years ago, we used to talk about dive into deep learning, and then now it's like a neural network for babies. Literally, the bar to adopt AI, bar to become AI expert. I would not call AI expert, but bar to adopt an AI has lowered so much. Anybody, literally anybody can start and use AI in today's market. All right, so that's on the how. What is AI? I'm sure all of you know about what it is AI, but quick intro of what it was before I would call a chat GPT came on, for example. Right, there were many bespoke models got created, like language translation, image recognition, speech to text, text to speech, and then many more. People were developing AI models, including myself, of many of this individual bespoke models. And then the motion changed is what we call a foundation model got created. And when we say foundation model, it's a text to text model, could be a text to image model. We saw in the beginning a video. Now that's a text to video. In the same scenario, what you see here is a text to video, which is like a 30-year-old spaceman wearing a red wool knitted motorcycle helmet. Now that's exactly the video got created by Sora from OpenAI. So The multimodality is the name of the game as of today. And that's a foundation model we are looking at on a daily basis. But at the same time, there were many predictions. Like we saw one prediction from McKinsey about that 2.2 to 4.4 trillion dollar of economy impact. But they are also predicting that the roles, which all roles will get impacted. And from their survey, they found that literally every role, what we can think of where there is a digital presence, will get impacted. Now, what does it mean for your company? That means for your company, those who are doing the manual work, those who are doing with the work with a pen and paper, their work will get automated. And I will show you in a couple of demos here towards the end. But that is where the impact is. If your company, your business is not adopting AI in its current shape and in future shape, you will be left out and maybe somebody else will take over. Maybe your competition will take over. How that is impacting. Now, this is a study done by BCG Consultants. Now, BCG, Boston Consulting Group, they hire a highest paid, probably, the consultant on their payroll. And they had run some sort of a survey within their company that certain people were handed off. I mean, all of them, let's say 100 people were handed off a chatbot like ChatGPT and saying that, okay, go and use AI for your day-to-day work. But they also enabled 50% of them to use how to use ChatGPT. Because if you simply use ChatGPT as is, without knowing the tricks and tips, or any AI for that matter, without that education of AI, you are not leveraging it fully. So here, what they did, the study, is the people who were using AI tools with the knowledge or the education, they were 11% more productive compared to their peer who were not educated on how to use AI. So I know you all are here interested in learning about AI. So you are in the right session. You are talking to the right person who can guide you and teach you how to leverage AI on your day-to-day basis. But let's continue further. I'm sure some of you have seen this story coming from Klarna. Klarna is a Sweden-based company. Primarily, they are in the financial sector where they allow anybody to buy now, pay later kind of a things. And they recently published a study saying that we started using ChatGPT particularly for our customer support agent. And we were able to leverage this ChatGPT AI model completely for 2/3 of our customer conversation. That means anybody who is using or calling Klarna or doing a chat with Klarna, they were able to, let's say there are 100 agents on their payroll. 66 of them were literally operated by AI. That means no human involved for 66% of those conversations. Only at certain extent, that 33% where human were involved. Maybe it was something outside of the domain or some weird questions what user might be asking, and then they may be required to do that. But that's a massive impact. And they are expecting somewhere around 23 million, 24 million of a profit as a part of this entire automation, I would call, or augmentation because of AI. But the reality is something else as well. Now you see this picture, this was viral a couple of weeks ago, where this picture is created by Google Gemini. Yes, it's Google's AI tool, similar to ChatGPT. And they were, or some user asked to create an image for a Pope. Now, after multiple attempts, they were still not able to generate the image of Pope as is. What you see here was most of the images got created. There were other things on the political front where in India particularly, this was the kind of reaction when people started asking questions about Modi's fascist. And certainly the model Gemini started outputting something like that, that triggered the Indian government to take some actions. Now that action is they literally force AI companies to some sort of a go through government before they release their product. So that's a massive regulation government is enforcing in the for AI companies as they want to launch their new product. So as a business leader, you might be thinking that, Ritesh, what's the impact of this to me? I'm like, hey, this is actually a real impact to you. If you are a CIO, if you are a CTO, and suddenly if a model, I'm not blaming on Gemini, for example, but suddenly a model like Gemini or ChatGPT for that matter, start giving out the wrong output or biased output, it's your brand at stake. You should be worrying about how this model output you can contain before things go out of your hand. So what does it mean for you is you should be taking some cautionary steps. You should not be blindly using services as is provided by the providers. You do need to do a lot of things before you actually make this as a production use cases. At the same time, what if you are in India, for example, or operating out of India, and suddenly government of India is stopping the usage of some of these popular models because of the restriction what they enforced, right? So you do need to worry about what will happen. So the question may come down is, okay, Ritesh, what is the actual issue then? So when we started off, we talked about that rosy picture of 2.2 to 4.4 trillion of AI adoption and the impact in the economy. The same McKinsey, which they did that study in 2023, the recent study, this is hardly a 1 week old data, but particularly what they have found that the generative AI requires some reset. What does it mean by reset? That whatever expectation McKinsey had in the 2023, companies are not actually realizing that. And they are not able to capture the enormous realm, the potential what AI has to offer because of multiple reasons. One could be that pilot to production is not as easy as anyone would have thought. At the same time, not every use cases are meant for generative AI, and the leadership at the board level, everyone was ho-hum about generative AI. It's not just generative AI. There is a predictive AI, there is a reinforcement learning, and there are many, many other aspects of AI which plays the role. At the same time, it comes down to the cost, the economies, benefit of the applying the solution. So that means McKinsey's conclusion, at least in the most recent paper, is the generative AI payoff may only come when companies do deeper organizational surgery on their business. What does it mean is this is a business problem. It's not a technology problem. That is first thing. The second thing is your businesses are so segregated. And if those people are not talking to each other, and if you are not able to impact entire business, you are in trouble. So now the question comes down, it Ritesh, then how do we get started, right? Well, the simple answer is, okay, let's start with ChatGPT. But no, that's not the answer. That's not the answer I suggest. Yes, ChatGPT is great. It's not that I'm against ChatGPT, but there are so many things you need to be worrying about, so many things you need to take care. So this is some sort of an AI stack, I would call. And when I say AI stack, what does it mean? It has a layered component, typical, similar to what you might be used to of your three-tier architecture in your application world or web applications world. Here, we are looking at the GPU layer, we are looking at the foundation model layer, we are looking at the model inference layer, we are talking about the databases, we are talking about the pre-processing of data, then we are talking about the tooling, like what kind of tooling you need to have your end-to-end application developed. Then you need to have some sort of a prompt management, and then you need to have an entire observability, monitoring, and many other aspects, including security and governance, right? So this is not just ChatGPT or any foundation model for that matter, which is you need many more things at an organization level to get to where you want to from an organization point of view. So then the question is, Ritesh, is there a framework I can adopt? Yes, there is a framework. I have come up with a framework called Visual Red. And what do I mean by Visual Red is particularly in this scenario, I'm saying Visual Red being, let's break down those acronyms of Visual Red, is V being the vision, where you as a leader, you want to set the vision. Then you want to have an impact assessment that if I'm solving a problem on my customer support, or if I'm solving a problem on my sales or marketing, what kind of impact will it have? So you want to have that impact from a dollar point of view, from a people impact point of view, and then many other areas of that impact. Then you want to think about scale, that I want to scale because I'm an organization. I need to scale from 1 user to 10 user to 100 users, or one use case to 100 use case to 1,000 use cases. How do I scale this? So you need to consider the scale aspect. Use cases, which is the primary. Without use cases, there is no AI. So that means you need to start with what are those use cases from the industry point of view, from your department's point of view. And then you implement the tech, which is what we looked at the stack earlier, a couple of slides ago. But you also need a leadership. And when I say leadership, we need you who are the leader of the company, who is going to take charge of this entire solution end to end. But you will also need a talent. The talent could be coming from your internal organization. Maybe you already have people who are either data science, machine learning engineers, some software engineers who aspire to be a machine learning engineers, and then so forth. So you will find those talents. You will need talent from business point of view, because as AI is not a technology problem, it's a business problem. So you will need some business skills. So the people from that department, maybe of finance, maybe from HR, maybe from sales and marketing, who knows what are the business operations which you can automate, which you can allow AI to take over. So a combination of business skill, combination of technology skill is where you will find those people, and you will need to sort of combine them as a single team, or a two pizza team, as we used to call it in Amazon, where you combine those team and then work together. You'll need to consider risk. Those risks, we look at risk. One of the risks we looked at earlier was about a government, right? Government may shut down those models at a flip of a switch. And they actually did that, right? For Google Gemini, for example. Then we need to consider ethics. And when we say ethics, it's all about how we are producing the result. Are we considering our user who is going to use this system? And do we have any biased information as a result of our AI functionality? I'll give you an example. Let's imagine you are a mortgage company, and your data, what you have used to build your AI, does not have any neighborhood, which is, let's call it, doesn't have any African American neighborhood or a Black people in a way, right? So when you are creating that mortgage review, your AI may be biased to non-African American people and may not be able to justify whether you are allowed to take a mortgage or not to the African American people. So that's an ethic rule. That means you definitely want to have some data which kind of allows your user to not be ethically biased. And that comes down to the data. At the end of the day, data is the key. AI is just one thing. When we are looking at AI, which is kind of a tool set, but if it is not matched with your own data, then that AI is useless. So if you don't have data, probably you don't have AI problem. But if you have a lot of data, and if you are not leveraging AI, that means you are at a risk of losing out to the competition. All right. So how do you all solve it, right? I mean, as a leader, you have a framework that, okay, you start with Visual Red, but and you identify the team, you identify the data, and then all those good things, what I talked about. But what about implementation, right? And then that's where it comes down to the ABCs of innovation. And then when I say ABCs of innovation, primarily what I'm talking about is more of a, you as a leader act as an architect. When I say architect, it doesn't mean the technical architect. It could be mean that you are shepherding everything, what is happening in your organization, in your business. You are enabling people. So you are a bridger. Maybe a bridger is a I don't know what that word is, but you are enabling as a bridge between two parties, maybe a business and technology. And at the same time, you are also acting as a catalyst. Catalyst in chemical terms, it kind of doesn't take in the actual chemical reaction process, but it helps enable the chemical reaction to happen. Similarly, the catalyst, you are acting as that catalyst, allowing your firm, allowing your business, allowing your employees, allowing your leaders to adopt AI. So you are becoming that orchestrator of this entire process as a leader, where you are able to one, you are able to understand the problem. Two, you are not a blocker. If there are blockers, you are removing those blockers. Four, you are adding value in terms of making sure the right people are assigned the right project, and then many more things, right? So that's all about the AI innovation of what we think is going to help. And we have seen it at most companies where how it can be applied. So the question would come down is path to production. So how do I get started, right? What I need to do from a technology point of view. Some of those path to production is not simple. Sometimes you need to start with what we call the prompt engineering. And probably most of the time, that is the easiest way to get started using AI for any of the business problem. But when you start with prompt engineering, you initially do a zero shot. That means you simply ask a question and model will give you the answer. The next stage, quite often that is not enough. That means you need to provide some example to the model that, hey, my business is a little different and you don't know my business. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples. And based on that couple of examples, give me an answer, which is kind of a meet my tone, my requirement, my writing, my branding, and then whatnot. So that's called few short example. Now, many of these models are great, but quite often they don't have, not quite often, many of the time, most of the time, they don't have your private data. So they would not be able to give the output which is related to your private information. That means whatever is in your business, whatever is in your enterprises, they won't be able to give that answer. And that means you need to provide that information to the model. And there is a technique called RAG, or retrieval augmented generation. And quite often you start with prompt engineering with a zero and few shot, and you end up with a RAG. And most of the customers I have spoken to, I would say 99 out of 100 customers are at the stage of 3 or third stage where they are doing something with RAG. They are still trying to figure it out where this will take me from my production use cases, because I want to solve not 10 or not 20 or 100. I want to solve 1,000 use cases. And they are stuck at RAG, because RAG will get you up to a certain extent. It will give you an output which will meet your current data, what you have, but it's not scalable. It has limitations, to say the least. Then the next stage come down is, okay, that means I need to fine tune a model. What does it mean by fine tuning? Think of a doctor. Let's say you all may have seen a general practitioner. Now, this general practitioner would know most of the things. It's like a jack of all trade, but master of none, right? Similarly, the foundation model, what we are used to, whether it's ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, they are considered as a base generic foundation model. They do not have a domain expertise. But if we need some help with our heart or our brain, that means we go to either heart surgeon or a brain surgeon or neurosurgeon or whatever it is, right? So we go to specialist. That means your business, which is a special business, you are either in the retail, in the finance, in the healthcare, whatever domain you are in. But this foundation models, ChatGPT, Claude, and all of those are not specialized model. They are a generalized model. That means they know a little bit about healthcare. They know a little bit about finance or many other domain, but they don't know deep. That means you want to create a model which is specialized in your domain, or what we call the domain adaptation of a model. And there is a technique called fine tuning. That means you kind of actually the models are nothing but similar to our human brain, where there is a neural network, and you remove some of the neural cells from your brain, or in this case model, and you infuse with something new knowledge, and you ask model to learn about it. So that is how the fine tuning process works. But we only, in the case of fine tuning, we don't replace the entire brain or the knowledge within the brain. We infuse with some new knowledge. We remove the old or some other knowledge, right? So that's called fine tuning. But the last stage, which is the pre-training or retraining an entire model, that means we are removing all the knowledge from that brain, whatever it has learned in the training process of the model training, and we infuse with our own data set. And that our own data set can be a public, can be private, or a combination of all. And we make that model completely our own. And that is the final stage. I mean, if you look at a few examples like Bloomberg GPT, which is created by Bloomberg, and that model was nothing but financial domain model. And all they did was they picked a model, a base model. They removed all the knowledge from that base model, and they infused with their own information, the financial domain information, some of the Bloomberg's public data, and so forth. And they created a model. And when they evaluated that model, it was like 20 basis point better than any of the private model what we see out in the public, right? So there is a value of doing this, but what does it mean when we say value? So this is the curve kind of identifying that the path to production is not simple. When I say simple, the accuracy goes step by step. So as you go from prompt engineering, whether it's a zero shot to a few shot, you get some accuracy in the prompt, or rather accuracy in your result. But there is also an increase in the cost because you are doing more things with your prompt engineering. As you go from prompt engineering to RAG, you get a little bit better accuracy, but there is also a cost increase. And then you go from there to fine tuning. Then you go fine tuning to pre-training. Suddenly, you will see a cost going higher and higher. But there is an accuracy which is also going higher and higher, right? So that's the advantage of going from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. That's the path to production, which I have seen it a dozen times. So now you may say, Ritesh, this is all good, but what's trending? What's happening in the world right now in the AI space? I mean, it's evolving at every day. What we are missing out. So the one thing you are missing out is you may have seen it, you may not have seen it, but Google Gemini, which is publicly available, is called 1.0, 1.0. But they also launched 1.5 recently. And as a part of 1.5, they created the massive model, which can take a 1 million token. And in the research, they're talking about almost like up to 10 million token. What does it mean by 10 million token? Typically, any public model you see, whether it's GPT-4 from OpenAI or Claude, has a context length of 128,000 token or 200,000 token. When we say 200,000 token, that means typically a 500-page novel, right? So if you have a 500-page novel sitting in your computer somewhere, and if you want to ask question to that novel, instead of doing a control F in that PDF and asking a question, not like that, you actually want to ask a natural language question. You feed that 500-page novel to Claude, for example, because it can take up to 200,000 token. That means up to 500-page novel. And you can start asking questions of what happened to this character, what happened to that character, or what happened next in the chapter 17 or whatnot. Or if you are bold enough, you can replace the character's name with your own name. And you can ask Claude that, hey, regenerate the entire novel with the main character name replaced by Ritesh and give me that novel back. And it can do that for you, right? So that's the power of 200,000 token. Now, Google take it to the next level, which is like a 1 million token. That means like 5 times of what Claude can do, at least in terms of the context length. That means you can input more information to the model. That means you can input 500-page novel in a way. Or you can think of like SEC filing if you are in the financial domain. And every company, public company, has to file their filing with the Security and Exchange Commission. And typically those SEC filings are 200, 300 pages document. Now, in this scenario, let's say Uber is one company, right, as an example. And Uber recently filed their 10K or the annual filing. but you are a financial analyst and you want to learn about what Uber is doing for last 5 years. And you want to ask question using those annual reports. With Gemini 1.5 of a million token, you can simply upload those 5 annual reports into Gemini and start chatting with Gemini saying that, okay, what happened in 2019? What happened in 2021? What was their profit or what was the loss? And so, right? So there are many, many ways you can innovate. I don't know whether you have heard of this company called Rabbit. It's recently came out, recent being almost 2 months. But in CES, Consumer Electronics Show, in Las Vegas in January, they actually demonstrated their device. So this is a physical device. And with this device, you can do whatever you want from an AI point of view. What does it mean? You can simply speak to this device and tell the device that, hey, go and fetch an Uber for me. I'm going from my home to the airport at 6 p.m. in the evening. Now, just with simple prompt like this, it will go and use your Uber services. I mean, whatever the Uber account you have connected with this service, and it will go and reserve a ride for you, and then the ride will show up at 6 p.m. at your doorstep. Now, that is what I would call a task-based approach. And this device, actually, they launched it. It was sold out in less than 24 hours. They opened up the cell again, got sold out. They opened up again, got sold out. 6 times it got sold out. I think now it's back ordered till July of this year. But the point is, there are devices like this. Again, it's not a model or AI baked into it. They are using this as an agent or some sort of a task to complete on your behalf, right? And it's simply using your voice or maybe a picture. They also have a camera and then many more things. But they are using this to do many cool things. It takes us 6, 7, 8, 10 steps to do it manually. You can simply command it and then it will do it for you, right? So things like those. One of the thing I'd like to highlight is the effect, right? When you are thinking from a business point of view, this is a company called Chegg. Chegg is in the education business. Many students use Chegg or used to use Chegg. And suddenly ChatGPT came. Chegg did not pay attention to ChatGPT. And suddenly in less than 2 quarters actually, the usage dropped of their own services. People were started using ChatGPT for many of the things what they were able to do with Chegg. Now, what does it mean for the company? Suddenly, the stock value almost got dropped half. And it's possible if Chegg would have not reinvented themselves, they would have gone out of business. But Chegg is building their own models and then doing things better, improving of what they learn. But not everybody has to fail like them, right? There are many, many companies, many industries are going to get impacted because of something, some AI tool is doing it, which you are not doing it, or your business is not doing it. And suddenly you will see this kind of chart or maybe a drop in revenue or a drop in sales and then whatnot. There are many impact you may see in coming weeks, coming months. But it's not always the red. There are also green. So this is the NVIDIA stock for last 12 months. It's what, $570 up in just 12 months. I wish I had gone in when it was $200, but I could not. Right. So some of the resources, there are many, many, many resources out there on the internet, but these are some of the tools you can start using for building your services. Amazon Bedrock comes to my mind at the top, but again, this is all alphabetically sorted, but Amazon comes to first. There is Anthropic's Claude, Google Gemini, Hugging Face, Midjourney for your image creation, OpenAI, ChatGPT, which you are familiar with, text or image or video, and many, many more things what they have started coming up with. Runway is another company. They are in the image and video generation as well. Stable Diffusion is another open source company. Actually, they are in this image and video generation as well. So look out for some of these things. There are books out there. Certainly, the one I liked the most was the AI Superpower by Kai-Fu Lee, actually. And Kai-Fu actually created a foundation model as well, a 0-1, of to be competitive in the market. But there are many other books out there in the market which allows you to learn things quickly. And I would like to introduce to a course called AI for Leaders. And this is the course I run. It's a cohort-based course, particularly run in a cohort of less than 10. I don't like to involve more than 10 people because otherwise the interactiveness of the course goes away. So what will you learn as a part of that course is more of fundamentals of AI to begin with. We look at the cost benefit analysis. We look at how you can change or lead AI for hundreds of use cases because every company wants to bring in their use cases to the AI. What are the risks? What are the security aspects you need to think about? You will also learn about building a team, right? I mean, what kind of team structure you need to have? What kind of people skill you need to have? Is it a data scientist you need? Is it a machine learning engineer you need? Is it a software engineer you need? Is it a front-end engineer you need? And also about what kind of data you need. Is it a structured data, unstructured data, semi-structured data? What I do with all of this data, what I have in my bucket. Also, we talk about the same techniques like prompting to the RAG, to the fine tuning, but we go deeper with examples to show you that what if you do just prompt? What if you do just RAG? What if you do just fine tuning and then so forth? And at the end of the day, how you implement or integrate all of this together and club it as a and you become that ABC or the architect or the orchestrator to run this entire end-to-end for your company, for your business, in whichever direction you want to go. So to do that, I mean, we spent about 8 hours on an average, sometimes more actually, not less. We have 2 hour session for 4 consecutive days. When I say consecutive days, this time we are doing on a weekend. So it's a Saturday, Sunday, and then again Saturday, Sunday. But it's an 8 hour live interactive sessions like exactly this. And you can ask questions, stop me, pause me. We also have an office hours where you can come and join, talk about what other questions you may have, which you may not be able to ask during the live sessions. We will have you do one capstone project in terms of take one use case of your own, of your company, of your business, and do an end-to-end. How you are able to do it from inception of identifying that use case all the way to the implementation. Sometimes if you are bold enough, you can write a code and deploy that code and run that code, and we can help you there. If you are not coder and if you want to just to stay at a very high level, at a leader level, and create a plan, build that plan, execute that plan for what it takes to execute that plan, maybe in terms of timeline, maybe in terms of dollar, and the skills and then whatnot, we talk about that. And optionally, I also offer one-on-one coaching if you need. Certainly, you get one session free as an optional coaching because time is the money. So this cohort is coming up next week, actually. It's March 16th is when I start. So exactly next Saturday, we go 16th and 17th as a Saturday and Sunday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern. And we go again on 23rd and 24th, Saturday and Sunday, again the same time. So total 8 hours all together. This is just a testimonial of one of my student who passed out. This was a 2 batch ago. So this will be my 4th batch or 4th cohort for AI for Leaders. So I've been doing it for last 3-4 months, and every time I do it, I have to refresh the course because the thing has changed so much by the time I do it in 4 weeks, right? I typically do it month over month. Like one cohort I had was in February, one was in January, one was in December, and this will be in March. But 50% of my content has been refreshed. But to give you a testimonial, this person actually, Jay, he's one of the CEO of a company or a startup he owns. But at the same time, when he started his consulting gig, most recently as an AI product manager, he was right during the course, during the sessions. And as a team, not only just me, but also the cohort of members who were part of the cohort, they were able to guide him together that this is what you should be doing or this is what you should not be doing. as you are embarking the new product or new functionality development and whatnot. This is another testimonial in terms of one of my students. Actually, this was from February cohort. She learned AI, this course for this 4 sessions, and she was a customer solutions manager. Again, I cannot reveal her name and the company is revealed anyway, but the name, because she's still transitioning into it. But she was a CSM, what we call customer solution manager, and she was able to transition into AI strategist role. Now, the most significant part is the leadership course, what she learned, what she heard, and then she implemented practically, that allowed her to be prepared for that new role. And she was able to crack the interview and get into that new journey. So here is a coupon, $100 off since you joined today to answer or listen me for so many minutes. And this is the link or QR code if you prefer. And with that, I would like to conclude here, but I will conclude with one demo. So what I wanted to do was some sort of a, let's see if I can do that on my phone. I'm gonna share my screen. Let me stop here. Come on, work. All right, that's a joy of mobile screen sharing. Okay, it is working. Or I think it's working. Stop sharing, start share, screen share, start broadcast. Good. Okay, so you can see my mobile screen anyway. And what I'm going to do is I'm onto an AI called Claude. Hey, I don't need to see you again. Right. You go away. Right. So I'm into this AI called Claude. Some of you may have heard of Claude, but one thing Claude is able to do now in this most recent version, we call it Claude 3. It can also do visual. When I say visual, it can recognize the image. So for example, I'm going to send this image, understand and work with image. So I'm sending this hourglass, right? A picture of an hourglass and telling it to suggest 3 possible one-line description for this product. And it's working towards it. It will. So quite often when you as a business user wants to come up with something new, we human have a writer's block. And when I say writer's block, I mean any author you ask, they have a writer block. Similarly, if we want to write something, we have a writer block. But what this allows us to do is it gives us the starting point. So now we got 3 description. Again, we don't need to use this description as is. I mean, if we want, we can use it as is. But primarily, if you want to sell this product on Amazon, for example, you can take inspiration from this 3 one-line description, and then you can tweak it. And you can tweak further and you can interact with this model and ask questions and whatnot. Now, that is one thing. Now, there are many other things this model can do. I'm sure what you have thought of ChatGPT can do, 100% Claude can do as well. It's not about that. But I want to add one more thing. Now, when I learned about this model last week, only this week, actually, Monday, they launched it and they added this vision capabilities. Now, I've been doing some image recognition work for many years. And one problem I had solved was with one retail shop in the grocery business on their inventory problem. What do I mean by that? I'll show you what do I mean by that, and I'll show you with a picture here. So I'm gonna add this picture and let it run while so what I have done is I have added a picture of something, some vegetable, some fruit. And this was the inventory problem for that grocery store, where they did not know how to count for an inventory, or whether inventory is running low on the floor, and how they should replenish the inventory in an automated way, right? I mean, if human is there, that's fine. So in that scenario, I had used cameras, and using the camera, I had created what I would call image recognition model. It took me entire 6 to 9 months to build that model, run that model again. It's not just me, but there were many members in my team who we build that model, run that model, and we were still could not get to where we wanted to from an accuracy point of view. So what I just asked, sending this picture to the model, and I'm saying, tell me what it is and how many of them, right? Now, we as a human, we know this is a fruit, right? Sometimes it's not, we can say what that is, just from the plain picture. Now, it found out that this image shows a box filled with plums, and plums appear to be a dark purple variety, dari. It has 30 to 35 plums packed tightly together in a cardboard box. Now, that is amazing, because I did counted that before starting this call. There were about 34 in this entire picture. So it's giving us a range of 30 to 35. So not bad from what I can tell. Now, if we need accuracy, that's a different story. But let's do one more thing. I'm going to add this picture, and hopefully, come on, Claude, where you are. Okay, it's uploading. Let me type the prompt. Tell me what's inside. And hopefully it will tell us that there is a tomato, there is a lemon. Hopefully, okay, it's saying citrus fruit, lemons are larger, oblong yellow fruit, dari. I don't want all of this. Okay, tell me what's inside and how many. Convert it into JSON format for me. So the reason I'm saying JSON format here is because JSON format is the one which computers would understand. So I can simply use this JSON format and feed it into the overall activity of my functionality, right? So in this scenario, what we see here is there are tomatoes 8, there are ginger root 2, there are lime 5, lemon 3. Now, where is the picture? Okay, here is a picture. I don't know how it counted lime versus lemon. It's still getting there. It's not 100% accurate, but we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tomatoes. There are 2 ginger roots. I can see it. So it's getting close to that accuracy of what we think it's possible, right? Now, one more thing while I'm here on my laptop, or sorry, on my mobile, give me just 1 second, and then I'll open up for questions here. I want to take not the photo library, but I'll take a picture. And particularly the picture I wanted to show is something like this. And pardon my desk, it's kind of a messy, but this is a picture. Hold on. Yeah, I have handwritten this, and I'm going to feed this handwritten out to the Claude. And I'm not going to say anything that you do this or you do that, right? I'm just simply sending this picture to the Claude. And for those who cannot read it, I get it. The question is, I have $20 and I bought a pizza pie for $13. How much money I have? This is a handwritten note. Now I ask the question, how much money I have left, I have now. It actually solved that entire problem for us. $20 minus $13 with a $7, and you have $7 left. Now this is a handwritten text identified by the model, and then eventually solve that puzzle, what we wanted it to solve. and eventually it did all of those good things what we can think of. Now with that, I'm gonna stop sharing and we'll come to the session. And with that, I will stop recording, but thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll open up the floor for any question answers anybody may have.